Hello, hello, thanks for stopping by. This is Star Trek Voyager Elite Force for the PlayStation 2, published by Activision in 2001. This game was released for a few different systems back in the day. This is the PlayStation 2. It was also released for Mac and Windows PC. I think you can buy this one on GOG if you're interested. This is a first-person shooter set in the Star Trek Voyager series. Now, I'm a huge fan of Voyager, so this game works great for me. If you're not into the Voyager series of Star Trek specifically, still, this is a pretty decent first-person science fiction shooter. Apparently this was actually considered one of the first really successful Star Trek games. I know there have been plenty of Star Trek games before this, but maybe as a first-person shooter it appealed to a wider audience, wider at least than just fans of the series. Personally, I saw this game way back when it was first released and still in store. This was way back when computer stores were more common. I think this was a CompUSA that I saw it at, and I remember this one being loaded and running on a bunch of the different demo computers that were on their floor. Basically, this was how they used to let people test drive games a little bit and see how great the latest computer hardware was. I'm sure this one sold some games and it sold some systems. Now, this is a 20-year-old PlayStation 2 game, and I'm certainly willing to admit that the PC version is probably going to be smoother. It has to be. I mean, there are some mods that you can see out there that videos use, and they get this one looking really amazing. But still, even for a PlayStation 2 game, which has somewhat blocky character models, this one is good. It has some great voice acting. It's a perfectly playable PlayStation 2 game, especially if you're a Star Trek fan. In this game, you're part of the Hazard team of Voyager, and your goal is to fight your way through all the different encounters to survive. You're going to spend time running around the ship, the actual Voyager ship, for a while, performing tasks, and getting briefed, of course, in meetings for upcoming missions. Doing anything aboard the Voyager, I think, is great for a fan, and of course, you will transport or teleport to enemy ships and run various missions there as well. Now, I think the overall basic story of Voyager is worth talking about, and it's super interesting to me. The series goes like this. There was an accident, or an event, depending on how you choose to describe it, and basically, this took the ship Voyager, and it teleported it something like 70,000 light years away into what is known as the Delta Quadrant of space. This ship was thrown so far away into space, there is no contact back to Starfleet at all, and honestly, nobody back home actually knows that anybody aboard the ship is alive. For some perspective, traveling back to Starfleet territory is projected to take more than 70 years of full-speed traveling. This gives us a crew filled with despair, loneliness, abandoned in a completely foreign environment, surrounded by new species, technologies, and certainly different challenges you'd find out in space. It's a great premise that was executed very well with this series. Now, in this game, at the start of the game, your ship is damaged yet again, and you end up being caught in a spaceship graveyard of sorts, with a bunch of other ships. You can't get out of this particular area, the ship needs repairs, and while Voyager is being repaired, you're going to find yourself running back and forth, investigating other ships and stuff like that. Basically trying to survive so you can fix the ship and escape. You're going to run into a whole ton of different enemies in this one. Marauders, there are these manta-looking creatures early on, and we actually get Klingons, which is really rare for this series. But there's also Borg and other species that show up as well. There's a really good spread of enemies here, and I think it helps keep things really fresh. You also get different mission types. I mean, it's not just you running around necessarily murdering everyone with the phaser. I mean, that's what I want to do, but they give you various mission objectives, and through a first-person shooter, even though it's still a linear game, it's certainly fun, and it does feel varied. You're going to have stealth missions that you could ruin and just shoot, I suppose, but you're also going to have head-on attacks, and you're going to have things that you have to do at different speeds. You're trying to gather certain items at different times. For a first-person shooter from 2001, this one's pretty solid overall, that's for sure. You get a good spread of weapons in this game, covering all the basics you would expect from a first-person shooter for the most part. The one thing you don't really get is a hand-to-hand weapon. Your basic weapon here, which would be a pistol in another game, you have your phaser. You're also going to get a rifle. You're going to get an alien weapon that sort of acts like a shotgun. There's a missile launcher type of a thing, a marauder type of machine gun, and grenade launcher. These guns work here, they really do. And you also get a zoom-in sniper function from your helmet when you press up or down on the gamepad. You can use that with any weapon. Very useful. Each weapon also has 2 modes of fire. You get a basic blast, and you get a heavy attack that drains energy faster from whatever weapon you're using. Your phaser is the one weapon that will recharge by itself. All the other weapons require ammunition that you have to collect as you progress. Like most first-person shooters, you're not going to have enough ammunition. You need to conserve and get good at shooting. I think the level design with this game is also pretty good. You're going to find yourself looking for transporters, elevators, ladders, and tunnels to crawl through. I think they do a pretty good job of keeping the levels varied, too. There's a starting training mission in this game, and you're on a Borg ship, which has a very distinct setting, a distinct design. It looks very specific. And then there's this alien organic ship that has a completely different design. The Klingon vessel is going to be totally different. So there's a lot of effort that went into this one, just differentiating the styles of the different levels. And I think it paid off. The voice acting in this game is also really great. They use the actual voices of the Voyager cast, or at least all of the voices that I've heard in this game I can identify. I can't recall one recognizable character that I've come across in this game that has the wrong voice. As a result, this game does feel like you're playing an episode of the series, and I really like that. You're going to get a handful of saves available to you with this game. I think you get a total of 5. And you can do that at any time of the game. You press the pause button and basically you save away. But you're going to want to pay attention to where you're actually saving, and you're going to probably want to have multiple saves per game. At least you need to keep track of them, because you can trap yourself with low health if you're not careful. It's certainly manageable here, but also the system is going to prompt you to save every now and then, and if you manage to save right before a boss, which is usually when they like you to save, right before a boss, right before a new section, if you save and you have low health, you're going to be trapping yourself at that status, and it can cause you some maybe unneeded hardship for a while. So just pay attention. There's also a player versus player component to this game that I've never really played, but you can play up to 4 people at once. It gives you over 30 levels in this mode too, which is great. But personally, I think I'd probably prefer to have more levels for the main story. I've looked at some runs of this game online, some playthroughs, and it looks like you can get through this game in somewhere just over 4 hours, so it doesn't feel like a particularly long game. Although, probably those runs were done on easy, and the person knew exactly where they were going, I guess. I'm more than double that time into this game, and I'm about halfway through it. Still, it does feel like it's probably shorter than I'd like it to be. Well, that's all I have today for Star Trek Voyager Elite Force for PlayStation 2. If this video is your type of thing, please feel free to like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and thank you for watching. Hope to catch you on another video.